Hello and good afternoon from Indonesia. It's the cloudy and chilly afternoon here in my place. And good morning or good evening for those of you watching this webinar from the other parts of the world. I'm Finita and I'll be hosting today's webinar together with Joe Dale. So I'm so excited to welcome you all. This is the 9th Saturday Tech Talk with Joe Dale and iTell out of 10 series of webinars supported by British Council Indonesia. I believe many of you have joined some of our previous webinars, and I can see some colleagues from many different parts of Indonesia and also colleagues from Vietnam, Thailand, Philippines, Peru, Myanmar, Saudi Arabia, UK, and many other different countries. So great to get connected with you all, and keep dropping your message in the chat box. Say hi and tell us where you're from. Well, I think we also have some other participants joining us from the British Council YouTube channel. Hello and welcome to our Saturday Tech Talk. So the topic of today is personalizing feedback for your students, and there is a kind of slight change in our agenda today. You might see in our webinar poster that the speaker of the day will be Ludi Jones from the UK and Shelia Anjarani from Indonesia. However, Shelia has a family matter that she needs to handle, so Pak Gumawang Jati will be the substitute for the second presenter. All right, then. So to start with, without further ado, I would like to invite Joe Dale, my co-host, to host the first session and introduce Ludi Jones. Joe, I'm passing the microphone to you.
Thank you so much, Finita. That's fantastic. Welcome, everybody, wherever you are in the world. Amazing to have such an and to present with you all. It's amazing. As you can see, we're on number 9 out of 10 of the webinars. You can watch back all the recordings of the previous webinars on the British Council in Indonesia YouTube channel, as well as on my YouTube channel as well, Joe Dale 100. And yeah, we just got one more to go. But today is all about feedback, and I'm really excited to be introducing Ludi Jones. Ludi Jones is in charge of professional development across a range of schools in her trust in the northwest of England, where apparently it's quite grey and raining at the moment. It's lovely and sunny on the Isle of Wight today. You can't see because of my virtual background, but you'll have to just believe me, although the winds here were terrible yesterday. We had up to 90 miles an hour gusts of wind, but there we are. So focusing on feedback, Ludi's going to talk to us about an evidence-based approach around feedback to start off with, and then she's going to give us some practical suggestions on a sort of a multimodal approach to feedback, particularly focusing on audio feedback, which I think is very exciting in the 21st century. So without further ado, I'd love to hand over to Ludi, who I'm sure will give us more of a background about her context and all the different things she's involved in, and then kick us off with her presentation, which is wonderful. If you have any questions at all for Ludi or for Bagjati next, put them in the Q&A, please. Any comments, of course, that's fine in the chat, but for your particular questions, please put them in the Q&A, and then what we'll do is we will collect them when each speaker is speaking, and then we'll have a couple of questions at the end of each presentation, and then we'll have more questions at the end, the last 10 minutes or so. So without further ado, over to you, Ludi, and thank you so much for agreeing to do this.
Okay, good morning, everyone. As Joe introduced me, I'm Ludi Jones, and I work in a trust in the northwest of England. I'm in charge of professional development, but I am, first of all, an MFL teacher as well. So I teach French and Spanish. And today I want to talk to you about how I assess my pupils and I give feedback using a program called Mode. So what I'm going to go through with you today, first of all, is the what is feedback, why I'm decided to go down this way of giving feedback, and finally how, and I'm going to show you practically what it looks like. Okay, so what is feedback? Okay, I love this picture because to me it represents what people are like when we give feedback on social media. Okay, a lot of you will be on Twitter, Facebook, etc. It is so easy to press love, like, dislike, etc. Now, is it really that easy when we work with our pupils? it's not, okay, because I think sometimes they need a lot more than simply a tick. Okay, so feedback is really an important process when learning. Okay, students need to be provided with a timely, and I'm going to go back with this, idea of really being at the right time and precise feedback to keep them on track to achieve the learning goal and move on to the next one. And, you're probably quite aware of Hattie's research on feedback. It does say that the quality of feedback contributes towards improving the rate of learning in 1 year by at least 50%. So pupils actually can learn half as much if you provide your pupils with good quality feedback. Okay, so this is something that, I was quite passionate about, because, as a teacher, who doesn't really want to improve their pupils' performance by 50%. Okay, so good quality feedback is absolutely essential. Okay, so when we consider different strategies for providing students with this feedback, it should be responsive. Okay, so it should really come to from what the pupils have produced, so that we can really understand where they are at, understand the errors they're making, and how to move them on to the next level. And it's about teaching those skills. And this is to really, inform our teaching. So when we give them, feedback, but also to move everyone on. And I really like this picture of feedback when we really try to raise pupils' performance. So I think feedback is really about that. It's about raising the skills, improving pupils' performance within, having in mind that we can improve their performance by up to 50%. So that's what feedback is to me. Okay, I work for the school, Blackpool Research School, which is, founded on the evidence from the EEF. And basically, I looked into their report on feedback, and they said this is what quality feedback is. Okay, so quality feedback should address misconception and strength. So really, it's the idea of like, where is that my pupils are making mistakes? Where is that they're not getting it right? Where is that, they maybe got it wrong when I was teaching them, and really addressing this, and also looking into their strengths, because their strengths, their knowledge is what we need to use to build on. Okay, and basically, it's really important that we guide this success. Okay, we do guide through our feedback the success, tell them what they're doing right and what they are not, so they can move on. So it's all about moving towards our own learning goal. Okay, it's about clearly communicating those learning goals and expectations. Okay, every teacher should really have high expectations of their pupils in terms of the work they can produce, because if you guide them the right way, this is how they will achieve those high expectations. Okay, and finally, it needs to be timed, okay, quick enough to act upon to improve. Now, there's a phrase that I don't like. It's practice makes perfect. This is not true. Practice never makes perfect. What practice makes is permanent. So, for example, if you keep practicing something wrong, okay, it will become ingrained. It will become, automatic. So this is why we need to give timely advice on how to improve, so that we break this circle of practicing it wrong, so people can practice right to make permanent. So the time is essential in here when we give feedback. And finally, it's really important that when we give this feedback, pupils must act on the feedback. Okay. Ages ago, I remember spending quite a while marking a set of book, and the pupils opened their book and they started counting how many ticks they had. Then I felt quite destroyed, because for them, the tick were more important, the grade were more important. And actually what I wanted them to do is look at where they were wrong and learn and improve. So it is our job, I feel, as teachers, to really guide and make those pupils act on the feedback that they are receiving. Okay, so the why do I decide to just, put so much emphasis on, feedback? This is a research that has been conducted once again by the EEF, and what it shows is basically different strategies over time to improve learning. Okay, so at the bottom you have how much it costs, and then on the side, on the left-hand side, you have how much of an impact it can have, and this has been measured in months gained. So how many more months of learning have you gained? And it will come to absolutely no surprise that the very top one indeed is feedback. Okay, feedback is not something that, you know, costs a lot of money. The only thing it costs is your own time, which is what I decided to look into verbal feedback, which I'm going to talk about because it's so much quicker than written feedback. Okay, but it is the most promising way to improve our pupils' learning, as you can see on this chart. Okay, so this is why feedback to me was one of the important things I wanted to concentrate on. Okay, so continue on the why. Okay, impact of verbal feedback. Now, you all know when you are in the classroom, okay, pupils get this all important verbal feedback. So when they give an answer that's wrong, you are there straight away to help them, guide them, correct them, okay, ask them to reflect, ask them to bounce a question on someone else, build up the answer. So the verbal aspect of a classroom is really, really important. And this is something that, you know, actually can help pupils clear misconception absolutely on the spot. Okay, verbal feedback is essential to have this relationship with the pupil and change automatically the direction they are taking. So verbal feedback is absolutely essential in the classroom. And this is what we do continuously with our questioning and then giving feedback straight away to pupils. Now, what happened, and a lot of us went through that, is we then had a lockdown, okay? And we didn't have those pupils sitting in front of us anymore. Those pupils were behind the screen and we were not there to talk to them and give this feedback in the classroom. And then I thought, this is something that, you know, was reflecting the quality of the work that were produced. I wasn't there anymore to explain why they were making mistakes. The other thing that changed for me is actually something quite personal, is my son, who was 8 years old at the time. He was doing work through a platform called Seesaw with his teacher, and his teacher sent him a piece of work and recorded herself giving him feedback on his work. Now, the impact it had on his motivation, listening to his teacher, was groundbreaking. Okay, he wasn't keen to do his work, but I remember him playing it over and over and over again, the 30 seconds feedback that his teacher left, because it felt like his teacher was there. Then I thought, what if I could do something like that for my pupils? And this is when I started exploring different avenues, and I came across Mode, which I'm going to talk to you about. Okay, Mode is a program where you can go give verbal feedback on pupils' work. So after lockdown ended and we were back in the classroom and the pupils were in front of us, it was great. You know, it was fantastic. We could go back to this verbal feedback, the classroom interaction, the pupils, you know, interaction, the questioning, etc. But pupils were still producing some written work. So I thought, is there a place for me to continue using Mode so that when they're at home, they can still understand their mistake and still improve? And this is when I developed the use of Mode, even though we were not anymore in lockdown. And the result has been quite positive. Pupils really did enjoy and were acting on feedback so much better than before when I was spending ages typing things. The other thing is, it's something that is really quick as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you now the different things you can do with Mode, and then I'm going to show you practically how this works. Okay, so the first thing you can do with Mode is give feedback or give explanations on mistakes and clear misconceptions. I'm going to show you some example of work that my pupils have produced, okay? So this is a paragraph that was written in Spanish about, you know, holidays, okay? As you can see, the pupils here made a mistake here, okay? So basically, all you do, and that has been said through Google Classroom, I simply corrected that from phenomenal to phenomenal. And then what you do is, when you click on that, after you have downloaded Mode, you can explain the reason why this is a mistake. So what you would simply do when you click on the mistake is you click on this M, this purple M, and then you would say it needs to be phenomenales because actividades is plural. Remember the adjective agreement, they need to match. So it's plural, that's why it changed. So you would just record yourself explaining why the mistake has been made. Okay, another example here, okay, where people, same thing, answered some question. And as you can see, each time you correct a mistake on Google Classroom, okay, it gives you the option, a box appear to record yourself about the mistake that's being made. Okay, so here I would record myself and I would say, remember that the adjective always comes after the noun. So it's going to be tiempo flipante. So basically, not only I would correct it, but I would quickly give an explanation about why they have made a mistake. So pupils understand why they've made the mistake. They are far less likely to repeat the mistake again. Okay, give feedback on overall performance is what I do quite a lot as well. Okay, as you can see here, if you mark on Google, it's very, very easy to simply, because Google will suggest corrections for you. So marking is, takes no time on Google. And I'm going to show you how to do that later. Okay, so once pupils have done a piece of work, okay, on the right-hand side, okay, you can add your private comment. And this is where you really need to go through with pupils the strengths. Remember, we are trying to build on their strengths. If we tell them something is good, they're more likely to reproduce it again. So go through the strengths and then give them advice on how to do it even better. So just say, for example, this is a really positive paragraph, okay, you have included a lot of connectives, etc. It would be even better if you were adding an opinion starting with à mon avis ce serait. So you just record yourself and then you post it. So when pupils open their work, they click on the mode and they hear the advice you have given and they act upon it. It's as if, as a teacher, you are behind the back of every single pupil all in once. And I think this is quite powerful to give this personalized feedback to everyone on the overall performance. Okay, you can also add some explanation using Google Form and quizzes. This is something we did quite a lot in lockdown. Actually, a lot of exams, I don't know if you realize, have multiple answer questions. But in our teaching, how often do we use them? And I think this is a skill that is really important to teach. So this is why I use Google Forms and Google Quizzes, okay, to really help them put some misconception and explain why. So when you create a Google quiz, okay, you can give answers. So when pupils click, they can automatically see whether the answer is right or wrong, okay? So when you do that, at the bottom, you can see here the M as well. So what you would do if pupils have chosen a wrong answer, you would click on that and explain, no, this is not the right answer because, for example, you would say here, normally at the weekend, I do roller skating. Skate means skateboarding. It doesn't mean roller skating. So you would record yourself explaining why the wrong answer is wrong so that they will not make the mistake again moving forward. Okay, so this is a very, very powerful tool when you want to do multiple answer questions. Okay, so mode here is always at the bottom. Look for the purple M. Okay, give instruction on Google Slides. Now, when you share your Google Slides, sometimes pupils are not sure what to do or how to do it. Okay, you can be as clear as you want, but sometimes they need that teacher voice to explain to them. So if you have a look at the if you have a look at the top here, what you have the purple M once again, and this is when you can really record yourself explaining the information from the slide. And this is like having, you speaking to pupils directly, and they can listen to you over and over again. They can pause it and they can really soak it in and understand. Okay, what you can also give feedback is absolutely on anything. As soon as you have downloaded the mode onto your Chrome as an extension, okay, you can give feedback on absolutely anything. So let's say they have produced some work in the exercise book, okay, and you want to give verbal feedback. What you can do is you can still record yourself. And the way you would do that, you would go on your Google extension and you would click on mode. Then you would record yourself giving feedback on a piece of work they've done. And then finally, once it's been recorded, okay, you can change that into a link that you embed or into a QR code, which you can print and then you can stick in the exercise book. The good thing is you don't need to have a computer to do that as well. You can do that. There are some apps on your phone through Android, through Apple, you can download and it links directly into your Google account. So you can record yourself with your voice, turn it into QR code or turn it into a link and then send it to pupils, and then the pupils will then have access to it on anything. So whether it's on their mobile phone, on their device, or if you print the QR code, they can scan it. Okay, so this is a really, really powerful tool. Now, I'd like to say the best things in life come free, but this is not always the case. Okay, there is a price to Mote. Okay, you can use it for free, and I would really suggest, if you want to have a go, try it for free, because you will see the impact it can have. But the price for it is £39 or $39 a year. Okay, you can get your school. I know our school pay for our use of Mote, or you can have some discount if you have more than one user as well. Okay, so there's a price to it, but I would strongly suggest you actually have a look and try to do it for free. Okay, I am going to try and show you live for a couple of minutes how this works. Okay, so this is a class that I have just set up, and I have set up an assignment on Google Classroom yesterday, and I got a fictitious pupil called Chris to give me some feedback. Okay, so if I click onto classwork and I click on he's handed in his work for me. Okay, I'm going to click on his work, and I'm going to show you how easy it is giving feedback with Mote. So this is work that Chris has produced. Okay, all right, so it was simply a question: what is your ambition for the future? Okay, so as you can see, the mistake appears straight away for me. Okay, so all I would do, okay, I would click on them and they would just suggest. Okay, I don't need to do any explanation here. Okay, so let's say here he's made a mistake. Okay, so if I click on that, it gives me the correct answer. Then I'm going to record myself by pressing this button, and I'm going to say, remember, Chris, when we have two verbs following each other, second verb is always in the infinitive form. Okay, there we go. And all I place is reply. So when Chris opens again, what he will have is that has been corrected, and it will listen to me why he's made the mistake. And I would therefore continue marking this, explaining mistakes. Then what I would do, I would give an overall feedback on this. I would click this and I would say, well done, Chris. Okay, this is a good solid paragraph where you have expressed what you want to do in the future. There's some opinion. Okay, make sure that your verbs are correct. And finally, if you want to get an even better grade, can you please add what type of job you want to do in the future and why? So look back in your exercise book when we talked about job. So that's a quick feedback I have given, and then I would post the feedback. So when Chris opened that, he would play it. He doesn't need to have it downloaded. It will automatically be there. And then it will just give the feedback. Okay, as I showed you before, you can just click on extension here and have Mote here and give feedback on absolutely anything. So this is me showing how to give some feedback. Okay, I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint to wrap up. Okay, so I just want to leave you with a few consideration on feedback. Feedback is more than one thing. Feedback is, first of all, feeding up to pupils. Okay, where am I going? Okay, what are the goals? It's about feedback about how they are doing currently, but also most importantly, it's about feeding forward as well. Okay, so you need to teach them through your oral feedback the skills so they can move their learning on, they can clear the misconception, they can add what they need. So feedback is feed up, feedback, and feed forward. And the final thing I want to go through with you is a feedback principle and why Mote really fits in well with this. Okay, so feedback needs to be timely. That's the difference between delivery and space for pupils to respond. What you can do, because Mote is so quick, you can give instant feedback on the mistake. Pupils produce the work straight away. You can give verbal feedback. Okay, pupils need to embrace the feedback. So basically, just by clicking the button, they're listening to it, they understand the mistake, they can act upon it. It needs to be absolutely razor sharp. Okay, you need to give them concrete target that can be action. So for example, you would say, look back to when we talked about jobs and add a sentence about what you would like to do in the future. So you need to be precise, and where to find the information is even better. Okay, They need to help pupils to be self-regulated, create the condition for clarity of instruction, be clear as a teacher. When you speak, you know as a teacher the importance of clarity of instructions. Make sure that on your mode, you do follow that. And finally, be fluid, okay? Create continuous flows between teacher and pupils. You open up a dialogue by giving verbal feedback. You open up that dialogue, you speak to them, but they need to speak back to you. It's important to open this dialogue. And this is how I give feedback using a mode. Okay.
That was fantastic, Ludi. Thank you so much. Brilliant run through of the research behind the feedback and then a practical demonstration of the feedback. Fantastic explanation. That was great. We had a couple of questions in the chat, or in the Q&A, should I say. And some people are saying thanks right now, which is brilliant. The first question, which I loved your story about your son and Seesaw as well, which sort of feeds nicely into this question, which is this is something that I've been experiencing. There are also students who couldn't care less about their own achievement and progress in the learning process. So how do we write an appropriate feedback, or in the case of Moat, how do we record an appropriate feedback for them, knowing they won't take it seriously? What would you suggest on that?
The most important thing is you can tell them what to do, but if they don't know how to do it, then they will give up. So it's about the process of telling them how this can be done. So remember when you did that, okay, look back in your book for that, look for that. It's not the what to do, because the what to do, you can give them a long list and it won't be done for some pupils. It's about empowering them and teaching them in the lesson to respond to feedback and being there to support them. So it's about teaching how to do rather than what to do, I would say.
Fantastic. That's lovely. Brilliant. And then the second question, another interesting question. Giving feedback to a small size of students might be easy, but what if the number of students are approximately more than 200 students? So if you're working with large groups, would you give individual personal feedback, or would you maybe record some feedback that you give to all the students, the same feedback? What would you suggest with larger groups? I appreciate in your context you're working with smaller groups, but what advice would you give for attendees who are working with large groups of students?
I would go down the route of maybe whole class feedback. So basically look at the pupils' work and look at the common misconception, because you will always have some errors that keep coming up, and really pull them out and do a whole presentation and say, look in your work for this. So I would give a whole class feedback, showing the whole class how to do it, but I would really pull the common misconception and give feedback that way, so everyone can see where they made a mistake. Even if they've not made the mistake, they can still learn, oh, there's a mistake to be made here, I need to be careful. So it's looking at everyone's work and then pulling out the different piece of information where people have done wrong, and this is to also inform your own teaching, I would say. So that's what I would say about.
That's superb feedback about feedback. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much. So we've done a couple of questions. We're now going to hand back to Finita, who's going to introduce Pagjati as our second speaker. Thank you so much, Ludi. We'll do some more questions at the end as well. That was lovely. Okay, over to you, Finita.
Yeah, thank you so much, Joe and Ludi. That was a very wonderful presentation and useful tips on giving feedback. I'm a user of Mode 2. It's easy. I'm using the free version and my students find it useful too. So moving on, our second speaker is Pak Gumawang Jati. Is Pak Jati here? Hello, Pak. How are you?
Yes, I'm here. Fine, good. Not bad. Rainy and cloudy.
Well, I believe many of you are familiar with Pak Jati's face, as he is usually co-hosting this webinar together with Joe Dale. He is the president of iTell and also a faculty member of Institut Teknologi Bandung in Indonesia. Well, many people recognize Pak Jati as the legend in the area of technology and language learning. Not because he is old, but because he has started his career and playing around Yeah, playing around with technology and language learning since 1980s. Is that right, Pajati? If I'm not mistaken, 1980s.
Yeah, 1988, 89, when I was young.
Yeah, late 80s. When you were, that sounds like a century away, I think. Sorry, Pa. So today, yeah, even though he started in 1980s, he keeps updating his knowledge in technology. And today he's going to share his ideas and experience in giving technology mediate feedback. So are you all set, Pajati?
I think so. I'll try my best. Yeah, if I got messed up here and there with technology, then I will ask your help or other Toar or Grace or other people in this panel.
Sure.
Okay.
So
Hi.
the microphone is yours, Pa.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much. Good to see you again. I'm going to share very practical things. Ludi already mentioned what is feedback, why should we give feedback, and some principles of giving feedback. So I'm going to on practical tips and give you some ideas and room for you later to explore. Yeah. So let me start my screen. Let me share. Yeah. So I'm going to concentrate on technology mediated feedback, practical tips, things to explore in the area. Positive feedback, it's encouraging, should be, to improve the student performance. So the idea is to improve the student performance. And also, when you give a positive feedback, then the students will become confident and enjoy the learning. So concentrate on that. So it's more on communicate. We have to communicate with the student, not just showing the mistakes. It's not just showing, yeah, this is wrong, but why you do this? Can you explain more about this? That kind of positive feedback will improve the student performance, and also will the student get involved in the learning process. Yeah. But then there are a lot of tools that we can use later on. I'm going to mention some. You can discuss a lot of things. I'm going to introduce one that's very similar to what Judy already introduced. It's called Kaizena. How many of you familiar with Kaizena? Can you write that in the chat box, please? Yes or no, Kaizena? Have you ever heard or use that one? No? Ever heard about it? Okay, it's okay. I'm going to go through that, telling you a little bit about Kaizena. I'm not going to go very deep on that because of the time, but later you can explore that on your own. And I'm going to introduce also Fokeru. Yeah, some of you have you heard of Fokeru? Maybe yes. Yeah. Ibu Sri already, yes. Laura, yes. Okay, so Fokeru is not new. I'm going to go very fast on that, but I'm going to show you the Kaizena. Yeah, just bear with me. I might get lost because I'm a little bit captured compared to the younger generation. Okay, Kaizena is an add-on in Google Docs, so it's very similar with Moore. It has text and voice feedback. What I like about Kaizena is the voice feedback that I use. Yeah, so it's a Google add-on. Let me try and give you some example. Yeah, this is an example of my students' work. I put it in Google as a Google Docs. Then I install Kaizena in the add-on. So if I put add-on, then I open Kaizena. Yeah, so it's there here in the site. Yeah, the student, they should better if they also install the add-on, the Kaizena. Yeah, so this is my feedback voice. How I give the voice feedback, I just click this voice message. So I can give this feedback to my student. Yeah, in general, your comment, your essay is very good. I'm going to make a further comment. So I try to keep it just short. introduction on that. Then you can also give a text message here. Your argument is well presented, for example. Then you can have also a video feedback. Yeah, the video is in kaizen.com. I put it there. I log in as a free. Then I put the essential lesson about how to write essay in there. So I just click that. The video is in the YouTube actually. Yeah. So I want this particular student to refer to a certain lesson. Then you can put it there as well. This is the way I use that feedback. I use a lot of this voice because it's quicker, and then the student can respond to that. Yeah, so we can communicate with the students, whether it's resolved and so on and so on. Yeah, have a try. It's good. I found it quicker to look at my students' work. Yeah, especially for general feedback. You might ask, how about grammatical and so on? I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Yeah. So this is, I'm looking at general idea, whether they get the sense of argument and so on and so on. Okay. So that's Kaizen. Huh? Then Ludi also mentioned that spoken or verbal feedback is very important. Good one is for crew. For crew is a cloud recording. Actually, you can put that later on, giving feedback through WhatsApp or Telegram group or in your Google Classroom. It's very handy. It's an online voice recorder. You do not need to log in and having an account and so on. So it's very easy to create. I'm not going to go through that because some of you are already familiar with that. Yeah. Let's move on to the next one. The next one is another feedback for peer assessment, so that the students can give comment, can give mark to other students, and so on and so on. You can use Google Docs. I'm not going to give you an example of Google Docs, but I just say Google Docs. There is a possibility that the students can do a peer assessment or peer correction or peer feedback there. I use a lot of Padlet to do this with my students, especially when they do their writing. Yeah. So this is an example of essay from my students. If I click this, I'm just going to show you how I do it. I'm teaching around 4 classes, so it's around 300 students. Some of you are asking about big number of classes. Yes. So this is a type of feedback. So I give them a rubric at the beginning. Then they submit their essay here. Then there's grade there. So each students, they have to look at other friends, at least 2 or 3 essays, and then they mark their friend's essay. By doing so, they look at other friends, they think about it, and then they learn from each other. That's the idea. It's not direct feedback, but through the process, they will learn from each other by looking at their work, their friends' work, and then looking at the rubric and try to decide what mark should I give them. Yeah, because I have a big class, so this is one way so that they learn from each other. Yeah, that's the idea of Padlet. I never tried the Google Docs for that, but I found it Padlet is easier for me. Yeah. Okay, that's Padlet. Another feedback for self-study. How many of you familiar with learning apps? Can you mention that in the chat box, please? Yes or no? Learning apps? Yes, Ibu Sri. Thank you. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Okay. If you haven't, if you are not familiar with learning apps, go to learningapps.org. Then you can create a lot of self-study materials, and then you can give a general feedback. yes, you have done a very good job, and so on and so on. Yeah, but it's generated by machine, so it's not very useful, but it's encouraging. Yeah, from the machine. Now the machine getting smarter right now. It has AI. So I'm going to talk about AI a little bit to give feedback to students. Yeah. So learningapps.org, you can explore it on your own, and most of you familiar with that. This is my experience with AI for my class, writing class. Yeah, students involved in the learning process with the guidance of the AI. I'm using 4 AIs before or in the journey when the process of writing. Yeah, I'm introducing apps called Outright, ProWriting 8, and PaperWriter and Virtual Writing Tutor. So I'm using those 4 in a semester. Yeah, in a semester of academic writing. Now, Outright. How many of you familiar with Outright and ProWriting 8? Yes or no? Can you respond in the chat box, please? Outright, yes, yes, no, familiar. Okay, thank you for the response. Yeah. Outright and ProWriting 8. Outright has a good feature for spelling and grammar and thesaurus. Yeah. So when the students write their first draft, then I will say, after you finish your first draft, go to Outright, just for the spelling and grammar. Do not think about other things. Then after that, revise your work and then go to ProWriting 8. And submit it there. Then you will see the spelling, you will get the grammar, and you will get the style checking. Some highlight that you have to think more about that. Yeah. So the first is giving to Outright, just for the spelling and grammar, then to ProWriting 8. Yeah. I'm going to give you some examples so that you might get a sense later. Yeah, what it's look like. After they're happy with the, say, ProWriting 8, then I will ask the students to submit that in paperwriter.com. Then they will take the account of spelling, grammar, with choice, style, and so on. Yeah, it's look like Grammarly, yes, but Grammarly sometimes it's confusing because it's too details. My student is non-English department. Yeah. So it's non-English department, they studying something else. So that's the context, yeah. So in a paperwriter.com, they will submit their work there, and then they will got the score. That's very similar with virtual writing tutor. Because of the time, then I will show you just the virtual writing tutor. Paperwriter.com, you can try it. It's free. You do not need to log in. The student do not need to log in. And virtualwritingtutor.com is also free. Yeah, I'm going to give you an example here, how it works. For hopefully my connection, it's okay. Good. So take an example. I'm taking my students' work here. I just copy this, and then I copy, and then I go to here. Then I just paste it there. Then I will go to score the essay. This is an opinion essay. So I click that and then click check. This is the feedback given by this machine. It's pretty detailed. So this is the score. Writing quality 66%, the cohesion, and so on. So they give thorough input so that the students can rewrite that and talk to their friend possibly and so on, and then publish it in Padlet, and then the other student will score that, and then they will submit it to me so that I can give more on the argument. I can give more on, okay, this is the way you argue. Your audience might ask this and so on. So it's more on the content, not about the grammar. The grammar, leave it to the artificial intelligence. Yeah. Okay. Last slide that I got. Thank you very much. If you need my slide, you can go to bit.ly/jati-stt9, or you can just take picture of this last slide, and then you can get my email and also the website of iTell and the iTell books and so on. Yeah. Back to you, Vinita. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Pak Jati. That's a very resourceful presentation, as always. You mentioned so many apps and websites, I guess. Kaizen, Fokeru, Padlet, learning apps, and then artificial intelligence like Outright Pro Writing Aids. And I think there are 2 more. We have got some question here, Pak. I'm going to start with the most difficult one for you. In relation to Kaizen, does it work if the students do not have Kaizen as an add-on?
No, the students should put add-ons in their document. It's not that difficult, and my students, they install that without any problem. Yeah.
Okay, so they need to install it, but not a big deal.
Yeah.
Okay, and then how much does it the audio comment take for the space? They are asking about the limitation of the comment. I think in Kaizen, is there any limitation for space or duration?
I don't know, but usually I give comment less than 3 minutes because I give comment only about the flow, the argument, not about grammatical or specific lines. Yes. Specific lines that's been corrected by the AI. Yeah.
Oh yeah, so because you combine AI feedback and teachers feedback, so you don't need to give a long feedback. You just give some points in which part they need to improve their writing. Yeah, that's a really great idea of combining AI, utilizing the robot in giving feedback, ya Pak ya. And also the idea of giving peer feedback and provide the students with the rubric is, I think it's an excellent idea. Another question is about, this one is about the content, giving a comprehensive feedback. Somebody think that even if they think they have provide a stimulating prompts, things like that, they don't feel that the university students don't get the part that they are suggest. So do you think, do you have any ideas on how to give feedback to students so that they can get the idea, understand what the teachers feedback on their writing?
Usually I'm using Bahasa Indonesia. So I'm not using English when it's too complicated. For example, this is your argument. Why you do this? Do you think people will listen to you? Think about that. So it's more on questioning, not giving suggestion. Yeah. If things not clear, I tend to ask questions because I believe feedback is not one way from me to the student, but it's communication. Let's sit down and talk about it. Yeah, that's how I put the feedback in my context.
Okay, another question about how you give feedback. I think you should tell the participants about your YouTube channels in which you have a lot of example of feedback, because here she was asking about how to provide feedback not only for not only for writing but also for speaking. Is there any tools or is there any tips or tricks on providing feedback? Even if you have explained some, maybe you have another tips.
I don't teach speaking, so I don't know how to give a feedback on that. I don't have the experience. In writing, I have a lot of feedback using Screencastify and also Screencast-O-Matic. That's using video, giving video feedback long ago before the pandemic. And it's in the YouTube. Just search my name and the YouTube channel. There are a lot of feedback for my students. When they submit their paragraph, submit their essay, then I give them feedback. Usually my feedback around 3 minutes, 4 minutes. Yeah, very casual one. I don't know. I cannot put it right now in how to do it, but you can have a look at that. Just search that a lot.
Yeah, I really suggest you, if you are curious to know, find Kumawang Jati's YouTube channel. You don't need to subscribe, but watch the feedback there. All right, I'm going to invite Jodel and Ludi to discuss more questions here. I think there are some more interesting questions for Ludi. Joe, you wanna start the question for Ludi?
Fantastic. I mean, just in relation to speaking feedback, I think Flipgrid is a good option as well, as a way, because you can record a question as a teacher. The students can then record their answers, and then you can then give video feedback as well as written feedback. But you can give video feedback to the students. So I think that would be an obvious recommendation I would suggest for those people looking for ideas around speaking feedback. So welcome back, Ludi, as well. We've got a few more questions here. I wanted to start off. So this is a little bit similar to what we did earlier, Ludi, in relation to effective feedback, but I'll offer it to Pagjati first and then back to you, Ludi, if it's okay. So this is a general question. I feel I've offered comprehensive feedback, including stimulating questions and prompts, yet it seems to me that some of my university level students could not address the feedback appropriately. What would you suggest in that situation? So Pagjati, can I ask you first for a response on that one, and then I'll go back to you. And I know this is similar to what we've answered already, Ludi.
Yeah.
Pagjati.
Okay. Thank you, Joe. To answer the kind of questions, when the students do not understand the feedback and they will not correct that, usually when you give feedback, they don't listen. Or when you underline, you have a look at this, then they will not do it. I usually use more on questioning. I personally don't like this, and I don't think that's the audience that's like this line. You know, it's too provocative, for example. Then can you pack it that is nicer? Or do you have any intention to do so? You know, so it's building up a communication. I know it's tiring, but then if you get used to that, then they will spread the news to their friend. Yeah. But Jati, you have to be careful when doing this kind of things, you know, things like that is spread the rumor, and then they know how to get used to personalized feedback. Yeah.
Fantastic. So in a way, it's all about the relationship that you have with the students, and if you have a good relationship, then they're more likely to take on board the feedback. Whereas if it's not as personalized, then maybe they won't take it seriously. Yeah, fantastic. Ludi, any other thoughts and comments?
I would say three things. I would say the first thing is rephrase, because there's a common language that may be missing. So rephrase or try to explain, use of vocabulary. Number two is break down the steps. Maybe you have given too much to do and you need to take it step by step. So rephrase your feedback and break it down step by step. And the third thing is guided practice. So if they don't understand it, let me give you an example, and give them an example. Explain your example, narrate through your example, and say, right, how are you going to put that into your own context, is what I would say next. And then it's really the guided practice. That's what I would say. So three things: rephrase, break down in different steps, and then give examples, and then show them how to apply it to their own context.
Fantastic. A brilliant answer. Fantastic. For the next question, Ludi, if I go to you first, if that's all right. So we had a question. You were talking about whole class feedback. So we had the question: how do you give feedback to the whole class in sort of concrete terms? So I know you talked about whole class feedback, but using the same moat, how would you actually be able to record one piece of feedback and then give it to everyone?
What you have in it's Google Classroom, you have the possibility when you give an assignment, you have the possibility to give feedback to all. So this is what I would use. I would feedback to all, and I would say, right, this is the good things I've seen, and I would go through. So pupils that maybe have not put that into their work say, oh, that's good, maybe I could put that into my own work, and then I would break it down, and these are the common misconceptions. So you have the possibility in Google Classroom to give feedback to all. Equally, what I would do as well is I would do a Google slide where I would put a whole class feedback form where I would put, right, this is the good things, this is the things that, the misconception, and I would record myself on the Google slide using Mode, going through the different steps, and I would, share that Google slide, but only one slide because sometimes it's too much, give too much feedback to everyone. I would record myself narrating through that Google slide using Mode.
Fantastic. So you're not recording... So you're not recording like one feedback and then copying it into 30 different for 30 different comments. You're making one comment, but because you're putting it as part of the assignment, then everybody can see it. That's a great time saver. That's fantastic. So yeah, any other things you wanted to say, Ludi?
No, I just think sometimes we need to make the difference between personalized feedback, but then when you have things that keep coming over and over again, this informs you on your teaching as well. So feedback to your own teaching as well. So if the same mistake keep coming back, this is something I need to be addressed as a whole, with the whole class as well. So I just wanted to say that.
That's lovely. Pagjati, how would you deal with, say, whole class feedback with Kaizen? Does it work in a similar way?
Yeah, usually in Kaizen, then I put that taken out from the Kaizen. Usually I take the good one, and I took the medium one, and I took the incomplete one. So I give an example and then put that in the interaction. Hey guys, look at this is a good, why, blah blah blah. This is okay, and then I explain why, and then the incomplete. This is incomplete because why? So that the student get the sense of the whole package. For example, when I'm talking about paragraph, I will take a good paragraph from their student's paragraph, then the student's paragraph that's okay, then they say poor or miss of the topic sentence and miss of the example, things like that, then become a feedback for the whole class. Yeah.
Fantastic, lovely. We've got a lovely question here, which I'm sure lots of teachers can relate to in relation to audio feedback, which is the following. When giving feedback, how do you make the feedback very short, clear and specific? Because when giving feedback, I tend to talk a lot. What would you say to that, Ludi?
I think it's straight to the point. Okay, you need to make sure that I am bad for waffling, but when I give people feedback, it has to be, in your head, you have that space to think about what it's going to be. So, a mode that is more than 30 seconds is not going to be as efficient that, do this, do that, do that. So it's about being succinct and about preparing it before you press record, which I didn't do when I was doing it live. But I always think about what I'm going to say. I make notes and go straight to the point. If you give feedback, yourself. If you give feedback to someone for like a minute, people switch off. So it needs to be exactly with, the same with the mode. It needs to be short and straight to the point. And if it's after 30 seconds, you can record it again. That's what I've done it before. I've recorded myself again because it's not achieving the results you want.
Fantastic. And would you say, compared to, say, marking it to books, that giving audio feedback saves you a lot more time or is quicker?
Absolutely, because the time you say things to the time you write things is not the same. And equally, I find it more effective because people have the document open, they press the mode, and then they make the amendments straight away on the computer. So, it takes less time for them to correct it or to understand. So I feel that it saves time to me, but it saves time for them as well. So, I find it really effective. And actually, I don't do as much in books these days. I don't because everything is, is there. And that's not the case of I've lost my book either. So I've lost your feedback. It's always there because it's always in the cloud.
That's fantastic. And just to clarify, with your students, do they all have the Mote extension installed? Because obviously you don't have to have the extension installed. You can just click on the link. But do you insist that they all have the extension installed?
It's done centrally by the system in school, so everyone have it centrally. So when we sign up to Mote, every single pupil have access to it. So we don't have to ask them to do it. It's there.
That's brilliant. Lovely. Fantastic. Pajati, how do you make sure that your feedback is short, clear and specific?
Very easy. It's just similar to Ludi. I take notes and I set number. I'm going to give you 3 things. 1, do this. 2, do this. 3, do this. I tend to use numbers. Sometimes I joke around. I got 10 lists, but I'm going to say to you only 2 or 3. So that keep it short. And I time myself, no more than 2 minutes. Yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. Lovely. Brilliant. I think we've had some amazing presentations about feedback. It's been really, really interesting. I think we've covered all the questions that we've had in. Some great questions about how to make the feedback more personalized, how to make it more smart and focused, how to deal with feedback with large groups, up to 200 students. That was amazing seeing your Padlet there. That was absolutely brilliant. So I think it's time now to start to wrap us up. Vanita, do you want to take us to the next section?
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Yeah, I think I agree with you that this is a very interesting discussion. There are so many questions, and I think we have covered some of the questions on the practical things, the tips, and also the technology tools that we can use for providing oral feedback. So thank you very much, Ludi and Pajati, and also Joe. Now it's time for me to announce the exit ticket. Grace will help me showing the exit ticket for today. The link to exit ticket is, let's see, okay. Can you help me with the slides? Yeah, Grace has provided the link to exit ticket there. Don't forget when you fill out the link to exit ticket, and at the end, after you click the submit button, and you will see the link to download the certificate. So after you click the submit button, don't close the window. Find the link to get your certificate. Some people lost the link to certificate. And also next week we are going to have our final webinar. So the 10th webinar after we have started in October, I guess. So next 2 weeks is our last webinar. The topic will be about assessment for learning. Practical ideas, and we're going to have Jane Bennett from UK and Daniel from Indonesia. Make sure that you join this last webinar series. Don't miss this one. It's gonna be interesting.
Just to clarify, Finito, it's Jane Bassnett, not Bennett. Bassnett.
Sorry, Jane
right.
Bassnett. Sorry.
She's amazing as well. So finish off with a real high. Fantastic.
Yeah. So don't miss our last webinar. Make sure that you sign up to the link provided there. And another announcement is, as usual, we still have the iTell conference on July. For those of you from Indonesia, probably you haven't submitted your abstract. So we have an extended version of the abstract. It will be on the 28th of February. So we still have around a week. You still have around a week to submit your abstract and join our our conference in Jogja, the iTell conference. The topic is about online learning, then, now, and the future direction. Oh, somebody mentioned that you have submitted your abstract. Thank you very much. So don't forget, next 2 weeks is our last webinar. Join us, and don't forget, hopefully we can continue another webinar series after we have a recess. And that's all for today. Thank you, Ludi, Joe, Pajati. Thank you very much for joining today's session. And for all of you, have enjoyed the rest of the weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay negative. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Take care.